Hello, hello. This is Charles Baldwin calling in from Somerville, part of the Brickbottom at Somerville Open Studios this year. I have been streaming all day and really happy that my neighbor Lois Fiore has come into the Zoom room. And it's true, Lois, we were just chatting, and that's what I wanted to capture this because
Yes,
as
yes,
an artist, and clearly an artist that is working both intentionally and responsively, as you were just about to talk about a piece of work.
yes, that I was so proud of. I've curated about 5 shows for the gallery, and they all had an element of just stuff, a seriousness that I was really thinking a lot about. One of the less intense ones was called News to Images, and I asked people if they artists who read newspapers if they would pick on one article they read that they found so intriguing and engaging that they did a piece around it. And in the show, I hung the original article that they read that spurred the art, and then the art that came from the piece. So I always try to do something a little bit odd like that. And the one that I was about to tell you about that I was so proud of was as so many of us were struggling with Trump as president, and just horrified by it. And I wanted to do a show about how people can take that kind of cruelty and horror that he was bringing, in my opinion, to this country. And how do you get through it? How do you deal with it? Because I was having a lot of trouble dealing with it. And yet I didn't want it to be that political. So it took about 1.5 years to develop the idea. And I came up with this idea of not just how do you deal with political struggle, but try to find artists who went through something really tough in their life and then do art around it. And I wanted it to be interracial and bringing new people into the gallery. And I ended up finding, the show was called Cutting Through Turmoil. And I don't have it in front of me, but I wrote a really, I found helpful paragraph that described what the show's about. But it's basically how do you deal with it? And I found, and I'm forgetting names, so my apologies.
Oh,
But
well.
I found an extraordinary artist who's Black, who lost a partner from AIDS years ago, and he was just stunned into not being able to do anything for years. Then he started to do art, sculpture, poetry, paintings, and it reconnected him with his heart and his soul and his life. And I gave him a corner of the gallery, and we hung his sculptures from the ceiling, and chests that he did on race issues, and we just placed on the floor.
Was that the gallery downstairs?
Yes, yeah. Then I was in a photography show, and I met a photographer who was found the most extraordinary material around slavery. And I gave her another corner of the gallery as you walk into the left, and she created a environment around slavery using original old photos of slaves. She found a text with using their own language, describing what their life was like as a slave. And it was so moving. And in any case, I ended up having 4 people of color, and then another 3 other women around my age, old women. And I was so proud of it, I can't even tell you. And it still touches my heart, because they all had one, as I said, slavery, another death from his partner in AIDS, and also race issues, another on homelessness, another on being disconnected as a Portuguese
This has all been within the framework of the uh, Trump presidency.
Yes, but I didn't want it to be political because I didn't want to
Well,
come
Lois,
across
please,
that way.
you didn't
Well,
want it to be political, but what you've totally described to me, you know,
I
anything
wanted
that's
it to be
going to
more
be
personal. I wanted it to be a variety of issues, and from a personal point of view, how did they survive getting this information?
right.
And
the person-
I had 3 pieces in it as well. And I have some photos at some point I can show you. I'd love to brag a little bit more.
But I'm psyched to hear about the show because certainly after 4 years of having fascism centered in American
Yeah.
politics,
Yes,
the need for us to recognize that we need to be persistent and vigilant.
yeah, yes,
There are
yes,
many people my age who did not anticipate seeing fascism center
yes,
stage.
yes,
But we also have, at the same time, had a lot of exposure of the deep systems of racism that run
Yep.
through um, America's history and all its bureaucracies.
yeah,
This
yep,
is a moment, and this is a moment that this is what we were talking about earlier, that anything that can be used as a catalytic, the idea
yeah,
of electrifying things,
yeah,
not
yeah,
going back. I can't
yes,
say I know what it's going to be for the grandkids, but it's going to be better than it is now.
yes,
Um,
yeah,
they've
yes,
made themselves visible.
yes, yes. No, it's maybe to a fault. I try to do work and try to come up with gallery show ideas that are tough ones, you know, that really make people get closer to the what's tough and think about it, and then how do we deal with it? How do we cope with it? It's tough.
Well, and that's where the agency through creative practice comes from. So what's to bring back to me, because it's my studio.
Yes, yes,
I
absolutely.
work right now in some way, whether it was the date or just the time, the work seems finished. And in talking about it, um, I've never thought about it being for sale, for having people look at it. It's purely been about process. And a lot of that having to do with the pains of, as I like to say, the pains of surviving.
Yes, yes, yes. Talking about I maybe shouldn't say this so publicly and have this on record, but
But
my
we don't have to share everything, Lois, but
yeah, but my fractures were from the stress of trying to deal with, I mean, also osteoporosis, severe osteoporosis, but the set off, what instigated the fracture was the political despair that I was, his
yeah.
cruel. I don't understand that level of cruelty that continues to this day.
Well,
So
it certainly continues to this day, and he's not alone.
right, that's the
There's
problem.
something there's something about absolutism that people just are compelled. Um, uh, yeah, I'm like,
Yes,
we can talk about my dental work another
yes,
time.
yeah. So, no, really, it's just stunning how many people have been physically as well as emotionally, but physically affected by trying to absorb the stress that he initiated, or not initiated, but continued.
Well, he was
Exactly.
able to give us a focus like no other. I mean, this is
Yes,
insane,
yes,
you know.
yeah,
I
yeah,
remember hearing about the John Birch Society, but I didn't think they were going to be like on the Supreme Court.
yeah, exactly,
Come on,
exactly,
it's
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
um,
It's gonna
so
be a tough slog, even with changes, even with good people.
we have to remember that they've had the long view,
Yes,
and that's what we need as well. Is the
yes.
view.
Well, that might be a positive end to our our
All
conversation,
right,
because I could go on forever about this.
we'll save that for the next hallway chat then, Lois. But
Absolutely, absolutely.
so happy that you came by my studio today, and
you. I
After all, it
really-
is May Day, so I think that our
Right.
conversation is on point.
Yes, no, I'm really eager, and I would love to share some photos of that show I've described to you, the Cutting Through Turmoil.
Do. I've got, I got a handle on some of that social media stuff that goes on here. So
Good, good. Great to talk to you.
thank you so much for coming by, Lois. Appreciate
Okay, my
it.
pleasure. Take care now.
Bye.
Okay. Are we off screen?
You are in 1 second. You'll be off in 1 second. There we go.
Okay, I